Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, all you cultivators of fertile minds. It's time to grab yourselves a handful of seeds and sow. Welcome to the fields of the plentiful virtual harvest here at Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Now, in today's episode, we're turning the page on a magazine for the future. It's both computer game and a good read, and it will roll up and fit in your jacket pocket. We'll also see how an innovative bunch are cutting down on textile waste and the enormous degree of landfill it creates with a clever way to repurpose outfits. And we'll catch up on the hijinks when a Pied Piper software engineer accidentally recruited several thousand robotic vacuum cleaners in one go. More of all that in good time. First, we're going to need the guy who carries all the important details in his hippocampus. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
So that's a so with an O.
With an O.
Not an E, I assume.
No. I'll have another introduction for that one.
Right, good. I haven't got the cotton and thread
Wait
handy.
for next week.
Right, good. And I think I'd just go and rent some of the clothes on this site rather than get the cotton and thread out that we'll talk about a bit later. So, yes, we'll sow with an O and then hopefully fertile things will grow and we'll have lots of wonderful minds out there.
Exactly.
So, one of the wonderful things that I've talked about or read about this week has been an aggregation service, I want to call it, for AI. Some people are trying to work out, do I use chat? Do I use Claude? What about Copilot? Which AI tool do I use? It's all very confusing. Do I use one and then try out another? Do I ask one and it doesn't give me the answer I want, so I'll go and ask another one, like
these
asking
are
parents?
Like 21st century first world problems, aren't they?
Absolutely right. So, some clever cookies out there have said, don't worry about making these tough decisions about which AI tool to use. They've created aggregation tools where you go to one AI and that one AI doesn't do anything of its own. It goes out to all the other AIs.
It gets them to do the dirty work.
That's right, and then brings the information back.
Fantastic.
Now, I haven't tried it yet. I only just saw it the other day and read about it. I went, fascinating how quickly the world creates different things that you didn't think of. We didn't know we needed an AI aggregation tool just a couple of years ago, and now here it is. And it kind of makes sense because sometimes you do get different answers from different AI tools. Some are better than others. I don't know who wins when this aggregation
I'm wondering,
tool.
so the next level is that we get a lot of AI aggregation tools and some are better at harvesting that information than others. So you're going to need an AI aggregation tool.
Well, it's funny how quickly it's come about because we've talked before about we need a streaming aggregation tool because there are so many streaming services.
Yeah.
If you went and subscribed to all of those, you'd be hundreds of dollars a month easily.
Yep.
And sometimes you subscribe to one because it's just got one show or one sport that you want to watch.
Yeah.
And, it's a bit of a pain. I've got to go and just do that one. But a streaming aggregation tool would be fantastic. That hasn't come about yet, but AI aggregation.
Can I share? I was philosophically against getting cable TV. I was always a free-to-air man, and then we started having these streaming services. And go, you can only get it on this. I'll just shell out for this. I've been duped into cable television.
I think you're right. I didn't want pay TV, but hold on,
but
now
I've got
I'm paying for TV.
And I'm paying for heaps of different
How did that
pay
happen?
TVs.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they snuck it up on you.
Yeah.
And I just trying to think when the last time I watched free to air, which is I don't watch much TV anyway, but free to air, I can't think of the last time I watched free to air TV. It's just if you've got 5 minutes, you want to watch what you want to watch there and then rather than Days of Our Lives.
Well, if I want to catch up on the news, I'll log into one of the 5 key channels there.
Yeah, or you just go online and look at it. So
go online and look at it.
That's right. Anyway, AI aggregation. I'll look at that more in coming weeks and see what I can find out
Where it's
about
going
it.
and see what rabbit hole we can disappear down.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, folks, it's time to get this party started, and it may be worth a warning. You might like to put down whatever food that you may be eating for a moment or two. We're kicking off today with a little bit of poopy talk. Now, there are so many ways to measure health these days, and to date, we've tended to focus on wearables that measure heart rate and blood pressure and such. But if you really want a barometer for your gut health, you'll need to go poking around on the toilet, post number 2s, shall I say? Maybe not. The Fitbit for farts, sorry, I'm going to say that again. The Fitbit for farts is on its way, folks. A uniquely specific gas gauging wearable that's the first of its kind, designed to monitor gut health based on flatulence. Easy for me to say. I've had a great day, haven't I? Flatulence alone. Matt, if this goes commercial, it's going to draw the attention of just about every man and boy over the age of 10, I reckon. And maybe even a few relationships in the name of science are going to be falling by the wayside.
I thought we might need to put a warning out that the F word might be used in this particular segment.
That's it.
But you've used it already.
I've used it. I've dropped it.
You've dropped
Well, I said we got poopy talk.
Right.
So we're talking fart gas, right?
We are talking.
And we're measuring the farts.
We are. And my son, till he was probably 12 or 13, thought the F word was the word that you just said.
Right.
So I've done a very good job raising a very naive child there.
So when he stubbed his toe and he blurted that one out, everyone went, fair enough.
Okay. So flatus. I'm going to go flatus with the F word here.
Okay, good.
So fascinating. And we actually know more about what comes out of a cow's bottom than what comes out of a human's bottom because we haven't done a lot of research, and most of the research we've done has either been self-reporting, which is probably not that accurate, or by being a bit intrusive, by having someone in a hospital, in a laboratory situation, and then sticking things in places that you don't want to have things stuck. So we haven't really been monitoring. So this is...
Quoting Chevy Chase there.
This is fantastic in that we've got a device that literally would not have been possible 3 years ago. It's a hydrogen sensor that's tiny. You can get hydrogen sensors that are laboratory size, but you're not going to be able to have people carry that around with you. You've got small enough to detect hydrogen. They've got a battery that's good enough to keep running it for a day. It can download the information. It recharges wirelessly once a day. And it's detecting hydrogen because, sure, we've got other gases that come out in our flatus, but it's detecting hydrogen because that's the easiest way to detect something that's different for us. So most of what comes out of our bottom is actually nitrogen. But it's pretty hard to have a nitrogen sensor, given the fact that, 78% of air is nitrogen?
It's already nitrogen,
So how do you detect some extra nitrogen amongst that nitrogen?
Much more tricky.
Yeah, it does.
So hydrogen gas, or is it the hydrogen atoms in, say, methane or...
No. So our main gas that comes out of us is nitrogen because we swallow
As you were
nitrogen.
saying. Yep.
The second one that comes out mainly is hydrogen. Then CO2, methane for humans is very low down the scale.
Yeah.
We talk about cows a bit because they do have...
Well, they're ruminants.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. And so I assume then there's some microbiobes that are creating some of those...
Yeah. Be the
methane.
Specific bacteria that that are producing that methane. But I didn't realise that we produced hydrogen gas.
Yeah, we do. That's the second most common gas that we let out.
So I knew we didn't have methane, which made that comedian, Mr. Methane, much more of a fraud now.
That's right.
But he was blowing up his hydrogen.
That's right.
There you go.
So and that's why people try and light up stuff that comes out of them. So, which I don't know you can do that successfully.
Folks, if you walk away from this podcast having learnt nothing today, then well, you haven't been listening.
Then learn at least that. So the reason we're a bit harsh on the cows is because CO2 is the first thing that comes out of them, the most common thing that comes out of them, and then methane's number two. And as we know, methane's worse for the environment than CO2. So they've got a double whammy there. And maybe that's why we've researched them a bit further. But for humans, we haven't worried about us too much. But 40% of US adults regularly experience digestive troubles. And so some of that can be bloating, some of that can be gas, but we don't have enough information or research to do it. So luckily, we've got someone at the University of Maryland who's created the Human Flatus Atlas. So this is basically a database, a huge database of human flatulence patterns. Now,
this is fantastic database for any young male, as I say, 10 years and upwards.
That's right.
And they're going to have an excuse now.
Exactly right. Better out than in. So he created 800 of these little devices. I'm going to use a very technical term here in terms of sizing. The new SI measurement for sizing is 3 coins. They're about the size of 3 coins. I assume they're about a 20-cent piece in Australian terms.
Right.
3 20-cent pieces. And he created 800 prototypes and then put out a bit of an ad to say who wants to be part of this trial. 4,000 people applied, mostly 10-year-old boys. No ladies, of course, because ladies don't do this sort of thing. So 4,000 applicants came in, gave 800 of these devices out, and the first thing they wanted to work out was how much gas, how many times people were passing wind during the day. The highest passer so far has been 175 times in a day. I can only assume he's very unpopular. So he doesn't go in many lifts, I don't think.
I'm thinking of that guy on Revenge of the Nerds, but no, I could be wrong. Anyway, keep going.
The lowest has been about 4 times a day. And then they've looked at the hydrogen concentration. And then as they keep developing this whole program, it's going to be the sensors there automatically recording your hydrogen. And let's take some photos of what you're eating during the day and let's see if we can match up the foods. But they're also finding in their early trials that the food that you and I might eat doesn't necessarily result in the same outcomes at the other end, because obviously we're all different. So trying to work out what foods might produce what gas, how much hydrogen, all these sorts of things. But it is fantastic that we've got this. And one of the things that was challenging for them was in the laboratory when they were trying to create this sensor, they couldn't have the amount of hydrogen they needed because hydrogen in certain volumes is illegal in the laboratory because it's flammable.
Right. Yeah, flammable.
So they couldn't say, let's just get a big hydrogen container and just have little squirts come out. Hold on, you can't have that much hydrogen in the science lab because things can blow up. So they had to come up with some other method of going through the detection and then eventually testing with hydrogen, not in the laboratory environment. So it's been a fairly big process, but they've now got those sensors out there. That's only being done in the US at this stage. Not sure if that's saying something about US people, about how much they pass wind, but only being done in the US at this stage. And I'm sure as we go on, there'll be more and more of this research being done. But it is fascinating what we're looking at.
I'm just thinking about the guy who's thinking, I'm really interested in people's flatus. And I'm also... I've got a new word that I'm going to be using quite a bit more these days. Thank you very much, Matt. This has been fantastic. A great start to the podcast.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Because researchers research a whole range of different things, and some are really focused on something that interests them. So I don't know whether this guy used to be particularly smelly or particularly gassy, but
just like to smell other people's.
Maybe.
I'm so interested in other people's farts. Back in my day, you read Mad magazines and you played your Nintendo game and watch, but not at the same time. It was an either-or type of thing. You made a choice, magazine or computer game. It was simpler times. But you see, it's 2026 now, and this generation of youngsters just cannot commit to a single choice, you see. They all want their cake and to eat it too, and that's why Red Bull Media have decided to feed the beast. Ladies and gentlemen, they've designed a cover for their magazine so that you can play Tetris. It's paper thin, it's the cover of a magazine, and you can play Tetris on it. Did I see this in Back to the Future too, Matt?
I don't know if it was in Back to the Future.
No, I don't think it was. But it feels like it's something I've seen in some 80s movie about the future.
Maybe it was. It doesn't come to mind. But Red Bull thought they'd go big and small. So in the 2025 Tetris tournament in Dubai, they built a 150-metre high Dubai frame, which was a giant playable Tetris display with the Tetris pixels drones. So I guess you can only play for 10 or 15 minutes or so.
See, these Red Bull nerds, they are just so over-the-top nerdy.
Well, they just make so much money they're selling soft drink that they can do fun stuff. Like, let's go and race Formula One. Sure thing, we'll go and do that as well. So in this scenario, they went, okay, we went big, 150 metre tall. Let's go small. So they gave a gentleman a challenge and said, we want you to build something as small as you can. Why not go for the cover of a magazine and make it feel like the cover of a magazine? So the official playable cover is called the Game Pop GP-1 Playable Magazine System. It's a system, not just a one-off, it's a system. So does that mean more are going to come out? But quite fascinating, he took 180 2mm LEDs, mounted them on a 0.1mm thick flexible circuit board. Now, flexible circuit board's not unbelievable, but it's still not bad when you've got something that can feel like a magazine. They wrap that in paper on the front and back of it. They cheated it a bit in the spine of the magazine and put the processor and the batteries in the spine, little USB-C charging port in the spine, because I was thinking, well, where are the batteries going to be in the cover of this? Because surely they're going to be too thick.
You get a lump.
They put them in the, that's right, you put them in the spine. And some places across the magazine, it is up to 5mm thick, so it's a bit too thick for a cover. But by putting it in paper, front and back, it feels like paper. And then to actually play it, there's no buttons as such. It's all touchscreen. And because the paper depresses slightly on the magazine, it feels like you're pressing a button. So they mass-produced, when I say mass-produced, they only produced 150 playable covers on a 1,000 run, like there were 1,000 magazines, they produced 150 had this playable cover.
Right.
So I don't expect to walk into a newsagent tomorrow and find every magazine with some sort of playable game on the cover.
But next week.
Next week, that's right. But it was just a demonstration of how far we can go with our technology. Go big, go small. The LED matrix on it was incredibly tough. They demonstrated that with a hammer, hit it with a hammer, and it survived that. Yeah, so pretty impressive from that perspective. And
so you can still use the magazine as a fly swat?
You could roll it up a bit-ish, use it as a fly swat, and then sit back and play a game and show those flies how tough you are playing Tetris and getting beaten by Tetris. So it's not too bad, but we come up with things for the sake of coming up with things, and then one day someone says, here's a practical reason. So sure, Tetris on a magazine one day, but is that going to develop
what's going
further?
To be next? Yeah.
We've seen shows, I'm sure, in the past where it was a rolled up newspaper that rolled out. Maybe that's on Harry Potter, where it rolls out and then the newspaper you can read with all the different news that comes through. We're not that far away from that, really, where your newspaper is not a 50-page newspaper that you roll out and sit at the coffee table and try and look at it all. You just roll it out and the latest news is on there on the same newspaper every day. Yeah. So anyway, quite fascinating.
Amazing. The fashion world has always confounded me. No big headline there, though, folks. That won't surprise anyone who has seen how I dress on a daily basis. But the social media being what is today, the fashion cycle comes faster now than anyone can possibly keep up with. But that doesn't stop people from trying, of course, and that level of consumerism amounts to a gargantuan degree of environmental harm. So, a new app is going to try and turn things around on that and create community closets, folks. Community closets. Me closet, a Sue closet. As the saying goes, mate.
You just wanted to get the word gargantuan in there, didn't you?
I did, and I did.
Good work. Well done. Slip that in there. You are right in terms of how much environmental cost, because people do buy dresses.
Well, it costs me to make it.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's an environmental cost in making the clothes, which is fine. I think everyone should wear clothes. I recommend clothes.
Good.
And I also recommend having a choice of clothes. But
once the thing to me is when you get some of those dresses, which I tend not to buy too much myself anymore, but when you get those dresses, they tend to be worn once because you don't want to be seen in that dress again in the near future, maybe once again a few months later, but they're not high-use items, not like we might, I'm being very sexist here, but not like a male might buy a pair of jeans and they're worn every day until they wear out and then away they go again. But you've also got the shipping costs of that. You've got to get it out to the retail environment.
Yep.
So there are environmental costs. In fact, one particular producer had more carbon dioxide production than 4 coal-fired power stations. Wow. So that's the sort of environmental cost we're talking about.
And weaving the fibres and whatnot, and how the fibres are made, whether they're synthetic or natural, there's a carbon cost to those as well. Yeah.
Now, the future is in bright hands, I think, because this is being pushed by younger consumers who say, I want the latest fashion, I want to look good, but I don't feel like I should be just doing that to the environment because I just want to look good. So what can we do about it? So there's a site called Pickle, Pickle, and they've essentially set themselves up as a peer-to-peer rental marketplace. So I've got some clothes that I'm not using that often or that I don't really want to wear that much anymore, or maybe I've lost weight or maybe I've gained weight or whatever. I put them on Pickle and then you can rent them. Look, I'll lend them to you anyway, but someone else could rent them and they could rent them and they could rent them directly from me. So there's not some company in the middle saying we've got a big warehouse of clothes. You can put your own clothes on there and rent them out to people. And so they've eventually, after this concept has been born, they've gotten to the point now there's about 350,000 items on there for rent. And what they're encouraging people is look in your own environment first. So rather than find this wonderful dress, shirt, jeans, whatever, on the other side of the country, try and find some in your local environment. I don't know how some people would feel about that if I went to an event last week and wore a dress and then next week that dress, I saw that person and there's my dress they're wearing. Yeah. Not sure how that would go. But I thought some really practical things. So there was one example I saw that someone was going skiing and they looked at the clothes they needed to go skiing and they were worth $15,000. So that just seemed ridiculous. They weren't a regular skier. And then they looked at the rental, and just to rent the stuff they needed was going to be about $3,000. They found what they needed on Pickle, and they rented it for $1,000 for a week, which still is a bit to rent it, but it's a lot better than $15,000 because they weren't going to go skiing on a regular basis. So what a good use. And if that person who spent the $15,000 has got their skis and their ski gear sitting in the cupboard for a week, well, renting it out for $1,000, well, that just got back 1/15 of the cost of it, but also it feels like you're doing something a bit better rather than just having it sit there.
And so you don't. And so obviously, if they're renting on Pickle, they're probably renting from Pickle as well.
Correct.
So you're taking advantage of other people's closets as well. You don't have to take up the same amount of closet space.
No, exactly.
But the amount of textile waste, and I get that clothes wear out.
Yeah.
But then there are clothes that aren't very worn out that are being put to waste as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So the cost here, the benefit, I should say, of this sort of community closet idea is amazing.
Perfect community closet. And one of my daughters is in an industry where she does need to have different clothes on a regular basis. And there are some rental companies out there, and she was subscribing to some of those where they would basically send her a new wardrobe each week, and she'd have a new wardrobe for that week and send it back, which seemed like a sensible way to go, but it was still fairly expensive. So something like this to me would make a lot more sense. And then you've got huge variety. You've got all these other people out there that have got whatever clothes they bought, whether it was last week, last month, or 15 years ago, and everything old is new again, then maybe put it back on there. But some people are making money out of it as well. Some people that have built up a bit of a wardrobe have said, well, I've got a pretty good wardrobe, I'll see how I go. And so some people are generating maybe 10 grand a month out of the clothes that they already own.
Wow, that's a little money spinner, isn't it?
So do you reckon I could get some, my shorts and jeans and start generating 10K a month? So
yeah, maybe.
maybe not. But it is. I think it is good that we look to see how, probably not good for the fashion houses and the fashion industry, but how we can actually just take advantage of the clothes that are just hanging in our wardrobes.
We've got to be smart about what we do. One of the problems in living with a technological world is, with all the number of devices connecting to the internet, is that these devices all speak a similar language, of course, and they're effectively listening to the same network. It's not been a big problem, but when things go a bit wrong, some big lessons are sometimes learned here. So like the time the software engineer, was trying to reprogram his robot vacuum cleaner and accidentally had an army of 7,000 robot vacuum cleaners at his fingertips all of a sudden. Matt, you heard the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, I presume?
So this is scary, isn't it? If you weren't scared before thinking about the connectedness of everything that we've got, then this story should scare you. We've got robot vacuum cleaners. They're not that uncommon. Lots of places have got them. And some of the new models are coming with things like cameras, and they transmit audio and visual, and they're mapping out data around your house to make sure they can do their job really well. And this software engineer, and I'm believing him at face value, I'm taking the information that he said at face value here, he said he was just playing around with his and wanted to get to the point where he could use a game controller to control his robot vacuum cleaner. That's kind of the stuff that nerdy people do from time to time. Rather than just let it autonomously go around and vacuum. He thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could just control it, have some friends over and go and run into them or whatever? So I can imagine someone who's a bit nerdy doing that. So he wasn't quite sure how he was going to get access to his robot vacuum cleaner. So he turned to some AI coding assistants and looked for some of the information or codes that you would use to access this robot vacuum cleaner. And so he did that and got onto his robot vacuum cleaner, but it seemed to have some shared credentials with, as you said, 7,000 in 24 different countries. Now, the only reason it wasn't more than that is because this was a fairly new model that had only just really gone on sale around the world, and they were $3,000, or they still are $3,000 for this robot vacuum cleaner. So if it had been a different model, it might have been 100,000 or 200,000.
A lot more people were telling the story about the day their vacuum cleaner woke up spontaneously.
That's right, and started talking to them. So you can imagine 7,000 out there. He could see into 7,000 lounge rooms. He could hear in 7,000 lounge rooms. He could see the maps of 7,000 lounge rooms around the world. So
sorry, so I thought he was just steering his own vacuum cleaner around his own lounge room.
Well, he could do that as well.
And And 7,000 other vacuum cleaners around the world were dancing the same dance.
He had complete control. He set himself up as the owner of his vacuum cleaner, but every one of the 7,000 thought he was the owner of their vacuum cleaner.
Today the vacuum cleaner, tomorrow the world.
That's right.
As the old saying goes.
So he did the right thing. He told the media, of course, first. Why not? Yeah. And he did tell the company about the fact that maybe their credentials should be changed. Maybe they were common credentials across the whole lot. I'm not sure. They've said they've uploaded a patch and everything's okay now. Nothing to see here, folks. But it does scare you.
But if you know a little bit about software engineering and AI, maybe you want to try this out on your vacuum cleaner.
No, don't encourage them, James. Don't encourage them. But
that's true anarchy.
Just imagine that. So it is scary. So when we start to think about smart homes, 54 million homes in the US are now classified as smart homes. They've got at least one smart device, and that's not including the occupants of it. So when we start to think about that, we connect everything, because when we're at work, we want to check in on the dog or see if someone's at our front door.
Yep.
We want that connectedness. But gee, if I'm a company that's producing anything that's online, surely what keeps me awake at night is making sure I've got security as number 1, 2 and 3 as my top 3 priorities, because no one wants to read a story about someone taking control of something in your house.
That's right. And checking out the layout of your house from the inside quite discreetly through your vacuum cleaner.
So just think about that next time you run through the house, you've forgotten your clothes and they're in the laundry and your own vacuum cleaner sitting there innocently watching James run through the house.
Independence is a valuable thing. It gives people dignity, and dignity is sometimes all that we deserve. It's as much as we deserve, I should say. But there comes a time in later life when domestic accidents can bear a heavy toll. Family and carers of the elderly walk a fine line between offering necessary support and intruding to a level where people become resentful and ashamed. So how do you keep a tab on mum and dad in their autumn years without spying on their every step? It's a tightrope here. Matt, you've got some tech that might come in handy for keeping people safe and well, though.
And there are a few things that are happening now to try and do this, because it is a problem. You've got people that might be our age and they might have parents that are a bit older. They want to keep an eye on, because sometimes they do go wandering. We've seen some high-profile cases where people have gone wandering and they've gotten lost or something's happened to them. But falls are probably more common when they do have a fall in the home. And then if they're down for too long, that can be a problem for them. Getting help quickly is obviously a major priority. But when people talk to them, and I do talk to clients who want to do something for their parents, but when I talk to them about some of the solutions, often the parents are reluctant, at the very least, because they're worried about security, worried about the surveillance. And so one of the things that we've often talked about are some of the wearables, watches. Samsung, Apple, etc. have got various watches, and they're good. They've got fall detection, they've got emergency SOS alerts. You can track where they are, which maybe some parents don't love the idea of that. But the biggest problem I've had with those has been the charging. When you say to mum or dad, here's this watch, every night, put it on the charger. Oh, really? That a watch? Oh, my watch lasts for years. Why do I have to put this watch on the charger? So that doesn't work fantastically. Security cameras around the house, or robot vacuum cleaners maybe around the house, are popular for some families. But again, parents sometimes don't love the idea that their kids can watch them. And sometimes they do walk through the house because they forgot their clothes in the laundry and they go for a quick dash from the shower, and that isn't the time you want to tune in and watch your mum or dad run through the house without
But just
clothing
having
on.
to check up on that sort of stuff. You want to be able to be in touch enough to be alerted when there's need to be alerted. You don't want to be having to check in every now and then.
So there's a new radar that's come out. So this is not cameras, so you can't see anything, so that's a good sign. It's called Ponto Sense. So they've got these wall-mounted radar sensors, and they track a few things. They track movement, they track vital signs, they'll track someone falling, they'll track nighttime activity. Well, they call it unusual nighttime activity, but maybe all nighttime activity is unusual. But if dad always gets up at 1 a.m. to go to the toilet, then that's okay. But if suddenly dad's up at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that's a bit unusual. And it only does it up to about 6 metres away. So you need a few around your house. The average size house might need 3 or 4 of these. But these have been pretty popular because, exactly as you said, It sits there idly, does nothing while people are going about their business, but suddenly if someone does fall or someone does get up in the middle of the night or someone walks out the front door in the middle of the night, you go, why do you need to go out the front door in the middle of the night? Maybe that's not a good sign. So there's a few different ones. One of the things I found fascinating was, of course, we've got Apple AirTags that people use. We've got Life 360, which people put on phones. But something like Life 360, which we used to have with one of our kids before the AirTags came along when they were young, and we thought this would be great to help us see where the kids were, whether they finished soccer training, whatever it might be. But the growth among the people aged 70 plus for Life 360 is now higher than the growth amongst people under the age of 15. So we think modern technology is a young person's game, but for some of it makes sense. Some people that are a bit older are jumping all over it. And I suspect some of those 70-plus-year-olds are encouraged or it's purchased by their children to give to their 70-plus-year-old parents or grandparents. So that's probably helping drive that. But I still like the fact that we've got people maybe in the third stage of their life who are adopting some of this technology and using it. And the sensible ones are saying, well, I don't mind someone keeping an eye on me because maybe I will need someone to help me out at some stage in the near future. So there's a lot of solutions out there. And I actually think someone will really start to focus on this segment and realise that there is a huge segment there as people get older. Our health system is so much better. We're keeping us alive for longer. We need solutions for those older people.
Yeah. Okay, folks, get excited. We're so close, Matt. We've been asking for a Rosie the robot for ages, a robot to gather clothes from the floor, wash the laundry, dry it and fold it and put it away without a fuss. Today, ladies and gentlemen, step right up and behold Isaac Zero. No, it can't gather dirty laundry and it won't load the washing machine, but the folding bit... that's another story, Matt. We're one step closer to fully automated domestic glory here with a laundry folding robot.
I'm excited because you know this is what I'm after, James. And if only they had it in Australia at the moment, you can get this. If you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, you could get one of these for a few $100s a month.
That's
and I'd try it out. I'd give it a go. For a few $100 a month, I'd give it a go just to see.
And it's a big piece in the puzzle. I mean, one thing to load the laundry, you can load it. Anyone can do that. But to fold that laundry.
To fold it, that's right. Now, one of the things that, this is Weave Robotics is the name of the company. One of the things they've said is people out there are trying to get the robot that I want, which is going to walk around the house, make my breakfast, clean up the kids' room, basically do all domestic chores. And I think that's a long way off, unfortunately. So they've said that's pretty tough to get there. Let's just focus on one thing. We reckon we can take care of the laundry. You dump your clothes in there, we'll fold them up for you. It seems like a bit singular in its task, but it says we can manage to do that. We've got enough skills in our robotics already. We can take care of that one task and we'll fold them up and we'll have a nice tidy pile for you there. We're not going to take it to the bedroom. We're not going to put it in the cupboard for you, but we'll fold it up for you. So at least we'll do that part.
See, of the 5 little tasks that I mentioned there in the intro, I reckon folding laundry, I reckon that's got to be at least 4 or 5 for the top, the one that we don't
the most
want.
Tedious.
The tedious one,
That's right, and it seems so pointless because you fold it up beautifully and then what do?
And
you unfold it and put it on.
Throw it on.
That's right. So this is a good step, and they actually talk about the fact that when they have this folding down pat and they've got the skills to make sure that this robot does its job, when we get the robot that I want, one of the things that we'll need to do is to fold the laundry. So if you've had all this skill and learning on one particular task, that's fantastic because we do have a bit of a catch-22 situation or a chicken and egg situation. We need lots of data to improve these robots. But how do you get the data without lots of robots out there doing all this work and then feeding the data back in to make them better? They need to get someone who's prepared to take the risk of having a robot go crazy in the house sometime. And this one at least can't run around the house. It's stationary. It sits there in one spot. It doesn't have legs. It doesn't have wheels.
But I wonder what sort of a mess it makes with your laundry when things go astray. Thank you, San Francisco, for falling on your sword.
That's right. And so I'm interested to see how it goes. But there are lots of companies working towards this, and that's the exciting part. We've got lots of companies who say, Matthew Dickinson needs.
Clearly they're tuned in. And thank
house.
you very much for tuning in too, by the way.
And keep working on it, please. And hurry up.
So the big question is now, what size screen are you working on these days? Is it one of those pokey little 14-inch laptop screens or maybe a more functional but still relatively modest sort of 27-inch monitor? Or did you go all out and set yourself up with a much more impressive 43-inch curved OLED smart screen? it probably doesn't even matter. You see, computer screens are pretty much about to become passé. So passé. Spatial augmented reality glasses, folks. That's where the money's at. Now, that's how the office and classroom of the future are going to be. Spatial augmented reality glasses. Personal glasses that make the whole world your screen, blending digital layers into your own life. So it's another example of when Star Trek meets real life, Matt.
Yeah, good old SARG, the Spatial Augmented Reality Glasses, SARG for short. I don't think anyone else uses that acronym yet, but we're going to start.
Taken now.
SARG, that's it. You're all over it. So one of the things that I've often joked about is back in the day before smartphones came along, we got these wonderful little foldable phones, little flip phones. And I remember Nokia came out with a tiny one. In fact, it might have been a sliding face phone rather than a flip phone. And it could fit in the coin pocket on my jeans. And I went, wow, how cool is that? And then before I know it, I'm carrying around this big thing that can't even fit in the pocket of my jeans. So all I want, not asking too much here, is a phone that's still tiny like my little old slide or flip phone from Nokia, but gives me a screen that's the equivalent of a 95-inch screen on the wall. So I'm not asking too much, am I?
Not at all now, because you're about to tell us exactly how you can have your cake and eat it too.
That's exactly right. So these glasses, and we talked before about some ones that were coming out that would give you a size screen in front of your glasses, which I just thought would be cool on a plane. You're working away on your computer and you're sitting there going, wow, that's fantastic. And so, you've got a tiny screen there. No, look at this. I've got a huge screen. And that's exactly what these glasses do. So this is the new Rokid, R-O-K-I-D, AR Spatial. They're pretty expensive, but when you consider how much a big monitor is, they're not that dear. About $1,100 you'll pay for it. And they pitch this as a portable spatial office. And one of the issues I have is when I travel, I've got my normal notebook, but I've also got a second 17-inch portable screen that I travel with. So when I get somewhere, go to the club at the airport or go to a motel room, you've got two monitors there and you look a bit dorky, I think. So, but it's at least a decent amount of screen.
But stuff doesn't fit on one monitor these days.
It doesn't, no. When you get so used to it in your own office, you can't do that. But just imagine sitting there with a tiny little screen and looking up into the air and looking around your screen as you work, because you're looking into literally mid-air. So you've got a projection on your glasses, and then...
See, the thing that worries me, though, is that you're sitting across the room from me and I'm just staring straight at you, but I'm busily typing away and stuff. And you're thinking, that creepy guy's just staring at me.
That's right. Just look up
the
the
other
other
way.
Well, I hadn't thought about that, but you do get some strange looks in some places, don't you? So maybe you would get some freaky people there.
Just get people staring straight at you.
That's right. Maybe you need a little sign that says, I've got a screen
augmented
projection here.
Screen projection
happening. SARG in use
SARG
here.
in use.
So they also adjust for your vision. So you can put an adjustment in to say if you need glasses normally, then they will adjust automatically depending on what your vision is. So whether you need glasses that help you see in the distance or up close or whatever, they'll adjust, or you give it the settings that what might be needed from your optometrist, and then they'll adjust so you'll have perfect vision of this screen being projected into mid-air. I love it.
Multifocals eat your heart out.
So you get about a few hours out of them. They've got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. You'll get a few hours out of them. And so that's probably okay. Maybe give your eyes a bit of a rest after a few hours, or maybe just plug them in permanently so you just got this lead hanging off you and away you go. Wi-Fi 6 gets the signal there, so minimal latency there. I do love the idea of being on a plane and doing what you said, staring out into the middle of nowhere. Someone goes, that guy's not even looking at his computer.
Really looking at you.
He's trying to look like a nerd and he's just staring out there in the space. So, yeah, I love the idea of these. So I've got to try and find out how I can get hold of a pair and try them out.
So I hope by now that we're all getting a little bit smarter about how we employ AI in our daily lives. I hope we're all privy to the lessons of the careless who asked AI and got a complete bunkum answer in return. AI tends to get leaned on for health and finance tips and historical facts and civic information as easily as questions can come to mind. Well, if there was any doubt that the feedback from AI needs a side helping of a discerning caution, a discerning level of caution at least, Matt, you've got a tale of how someone took AI for a joyride around the block, took its pants down, and for everyone to deride on the way. Are all AI engines equally gullible?
Well, I think they are, and this is the scary part. So if you go and search now, maybe it's been fixed up by now, but if you go and search for the South Dakota International Hot Dog Championship, and see who the winner of that is, then you'll find one particular journo and you go, wow, that's pretty impressive. He's the champion hot dog eater of South Dakota. But he's not. And no championship ever occurred. And I don't think many championships do occur in South Dakota for hot dog eating. But what he did was he created a media release. He put out some stories. He created some blogs. He basically did the things that you would normally do if you're announcing something, if you're reporting on something, and basically fed all those in. And then he started asking AI some questions. And, of course, it got no answers initially because with all the data that it scraped off the internet, there was no South Dakota. And then within 24 hours, suddenly AI is telling him that he is, in fact, the South Dakota hot dog eating champion. And that's all it took was 24 hours.
It was that easy.
It was that easy, that's
and
right.
all of a sudden it's become fact as far as AI is concerned.
And anyone else that searches that, I don't know how many people search for South Dakota hot dog eating champions, but if you did search for that, then typically you would find this particular gentleman. Now, you think, well, am I going to be able to create fake news for other things that are in the mainstream media? If I'm trying to promote my business, I've got the best widget producing business in the world here in some particular location. Well, if there's other stories that are contradicting that, you're probably not going to be able to feed it, bunk them, and get it to believe it.
Yeah, right.
The reason this works so
too much
well,
other conflicting information.
correct. The reason this works so well is because there wasn't a real South Dakota hot dog eating championship, but it still demonstrates what AI does. And we often talk about this, that it's not about the facts, it's not about it being correct, it's the volume. It's how much. I remember talking to a solicitor one day about a court case. He said, I think we're going to win because I saw when we walked into the courtroom, we had about 28 reams of paper and they only had 10 reams of paper, so it's just done on weight. Now, of course, it's not, but in some parts, well, it does look more impressive when you walk in with 28 reams of paper compared to 10. And so this is kind of how AI works. It says, there's all this stuff written over here, and that's more than this over here. That must be the correct stuff. We'll take that. The question is, how do we as humans, how does AI discern? That's right. Yep. So if it does read more articles on this one thing than the other, how do you know? And I still think when they talk about mainstream media, there's a really important job here for journalists because you want your journalists, when a journo puts their name to a story, doesn't matter whether it's radio, TV, newspaper, you kind of feel like they've used their journalistic skills to research and make sure that this story is correct before they go and put it to air or go and write the story. But
we know that doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen. But anyone that goes and puts a blog together or just goes and writes some articles and sticks them on social media, we know that definitely doesn't happen with those ones. So it is quite fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
And how do we stop it? I don't know the answer to this. How do we stop this from happening where what you're reading on the internet is completely wrong? I did a quick bit of research for something the other day and I was looking for Bathurst 1000, the Mount Panorama race, the famous race around the world, Bathurst 1000. I wanted to find out how many times Craig Lowndes had won it and what years. And I knew he'd won it one year. I thought I knew he'd won it 1 year with Mark Scaife. And so it gave me a list of all the years that Craig Lowndes had won it and one of the years it listed Mark Scaife. And then I said, can you tell me the years that Mark Scaife has won it and who he won it with? And then it gave me a list of Mark Scaife's years and it had 2 times with Craig Lowndes. And I pointed out to AI that, well, it can't be right because this one with Craig Lowndes only had 1 with Mark Scaife and this one over here with Mark Scaife had 2 with Craig Lowndes, so they can't both be right. And it got all confused and it started giving me other random answers. So, but you've got to look at that a little bit and just
we're going to have to do more than just search something once.
Yeah, that's right.
And expect that search has come out trumps with everything you need to know.
Or tell me where you found the information so I can go and look at it. So, there's the official website of the Bathurst 1000. Oh, there's the list of winners. I'm a bit more trustworthy of that. Oh, hold on, that's on a wobblydoobly.com. Maybe I'm not so trustworthy now. So you're kind of using those human intelligence to try and...
I was just thinking, so in inventing information, civic information, so information about your local community, there's a difference between conflicting stuff. So if there's already articles published about an event or something like that, then that's going to conflict. But if you imagine something that hasn't been done, so that gets compromised. Historical facts, you can invent stuff that happened in World War II or the Crimean War or or ancient history. You can invent stuff, new characters that came in, and if there's no directly conflicting information, this is Pandora's box. I'm just thinking that I'm going to go and buy myself a set of encyclopedias.
Good old fashioned paper ones.
That's right. Buy a bookshelf and like my folks did.
I'm sure your ethics wouldn't allow this to happen at the school, but wouldn't it be fascinating to say to a classroom of your students, okay, everyone, go and post a story on social media, on a blog, on something, and make up some random thing that happens, and then see how long. Because it wasn't just one voice then. If that had 30 voices saying the same thing, some made-up event.
You're doing my head in here.
And then the next day you went and searched on for AI, and I'm pretty convinced that it would actually happen. So it'd be a fascinating social experiment. But I think the secret would be it would have to be something there was no other information about out there.
And we also just need to, as we said before, you've got to be more discerning. You've got to be asking AI where it got the information from.
Yeah.
And you've got to be asking more questions, maybe doing deeper searches than just the one-off for your answers.
That's right.
Oh, dear. Yeah. If you're a parent trying to prize your screen-addicted offspring from their devices, there may be an answer waiting for you, still in the form of technology though. For anyone Gen X or older, this next story will come as no surprise. But there are actually forms of technology that are, get this, audio only. Only for your ears, truth be told. It'll play tunes, it'll read books, and being screen-free, there's no visual hook to mesmerise and stifle the imagination. Just pure audio pleasure. You know, like the old days. Matt, we used to call these radios or cassette players. What's the 21st century spin on this one?
It used to be a Walkman or even the first AirPods. iPods. First iPods that came out were audio only, and some of them didn't have screens, and so you could use them. And this has got a really interesting concept where they're trying to say get away from
Someone's
screen time.
reinvented like the radio, the Walkman, the iPod.
And what they've done, instead of a cassette that you'd put in and play, these have got little, it's called a Yoto, Yoto, Yoti Mini, and they've got basically physical Yoto cards, which seemed a lot to me like a cassette.
Like it would be a cassette.
That's right. So if you want to
in
play...
the olden days, we called them cassettes.
That's right. If you want to play certain music, you insert your Yoto card, and that'll then play that particular music or audio book, whatever it may be, and you want another one, you take that one out and you put a different one in. So there's no screen to play with. There's no ads. As you said, there's nothing to get you down a rabbit hole and suck you in. Really designed for kids under the age of, say, 12. On a car trip, here you go, listen to this. There's no microphone on there. There's no camera. There's no ads. It's just really simple. They've even got some built-in white noise if you think you're having trouble going to sleep and I need something to switch me off from the outside world or get away from other noises out there. It's got some white noise built in. But isn't it fascinating that we've determined that we need a device that's so specific that it will do this for us, when most people would say, look, just get a basic phone and plug some headphones in or go Bluetooth and that'll be fine. But I get where
there's still
they're
the
going.
temptation that you might use the screen, yeah?
Correct. That's exactly it. And that's
So,
where they're going with this.
Anyone older than 40 will just go, well, duh. I dig one of these out of a box in my garage.
That's right. I'll give you something.
I think it still works. We've got some batteries that'll fit it. Yeah.
That's right. And I wonder how many actual different audio books or songs or whatever you've got on the Yoto cards, because it seems very specific. It's not something that's common across the world there, whereas cassette tapes on your old Walkman, you can go to a flea market on a Saturday morning, there'll be someone selling some old Beatles music or something on their cassette tapes.
No, I take my hat off to the, what was it, Yotos?
Yoto.
I take my hat off to them. They've reinvented this device that we had in the olden days, but for anyone under the age of 30, they're going to go, this is remarkable.
That's right.
You know, I'm not distracted by screens and stuff, and I can still hear music or I can hear stories and things.
Where's it coming from? So get ready for it. This is part of a wider movement toward low stimulation tech for children. I don't think there's much future in it because it's low stimulation. Who's going to want low stimulation? They're going to go back to it. They're going to say, I want that high stimulation stuff. So this is part of a nostalgia look or a low stimulation tech. Interesting.
And just like that, we're all done for another week. There's nothing left but some crumbs and a smudge of sauce at the bottom of the bowl. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, Matt.
I do apologise again for the use of the F word earlier in the episode.
I used it prolifically.
Were very gentle in their appreciation
This room
for how.
stinks.
That's right. Glad we haven't got those sensors on now.
And thank you, folks, for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Tech Talk with Matthew Dickinson is a home-brewed tech podcast with a full head, fruity notes, and a rich, hoppy aftertaste. So drink up, folks, and enjoy. I'm your host, James Eddy, bidding you glad tidings for another week until we meet again with our next freshly poured episode of Tech Talk. There's plenty of room at the table, so don't forget to bring some friends along next time. And until then, take care and we'll see you when we see you.